Welcome to the Flying Octopus Podcast, offering a new perspective on Red Wings hockey, as well as all the important news from around the NHL. And now, here are your hosts, Tony Wolak, Devin Little, and Evan Sabrin.
Hey, it's Carter Bear, and you're listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast.
So I don't know about you guys, but earlier this week, I decided it was time to take a look at the Red Wings schedule and decide if there was a game that stood out for me to buy some tickets to. Always want to have at least one game I know I'm going to be going to each season. So I'm looking around, and whenever I do that, I typically am looking for specific dates or time frames that would make sense to go to a game for one reason or another. One time frame that I always tend to look towards is late February. That's right around when my birthday is. That just tends to be a really easy one to sell if I'm trying to get a group of people to go or whatever. And so I'm looking, and the Red Wings don't play at all in February next year. And there was definitely that beat that I had where I was like, what the heck happened here? Why am I missing something? Why don't they play at all in February? And then it dawned on me. Oh yeah, they're going back to the Olympics next year. That's why they don't play. They're going to be they're not going to be in Detroit. They're going to be representing their country. So if I wasn't kind of in the mindset of Olympic hockey with NHL players is going to be back really, really soon, I was after I was looking to buy my tickets for this season.
God, Olympic hockey! I can't wait for it. I mean, it seriously is the best of the sport. I mean, especially after watching Four Nations last year, I'm so geared up for it. That 2010 run with the U.S. and Canada, I'm still not over that. That was just one of the greatest runs, and I love that whole tournament. It's absolutely amazing. Tony, you a big Olympic fan?
I am. Any sort of international competition, I'm all in on, because every tournament, there's at least one underdog team that makes a run or upsets one of the powerhouses. And I love to see it because, these all-star teams up against teams that, while they have some, solid players, they're mostly like a systems team. They play a certain way. And when it comes down to these games, effort and experience can trump talent. And that's definitely something that I look forward to.
There's one moment in my life where I tell people if I could relive that one moment or that one weekend of time in my life, it would be the 2010 Winter Olympics as my friends and I went to the gold medal game, the USA versus Canada. Oh. And I've never seen or ever will see a sporting event like that again. And as soon as Crosby scored that golden goal, we were out the door because the rampage started. And that's the last thing I needed to do was get arrested in Canada. Welcome to episode 48 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. I'm your co-host, Evan Sabrin, joined as always by Tony Wolak and Devin Little. We are inching closer and closer to the start of the NHL season, 36 days till the Red Wings open up training camp as we record here on Wednesday, August 13th. It's going to be here before you know it, guys. On today's show, we'll look into some new trade rumors that are floating around since we last talked to you. One in particular that caught our attention that involves two of Detroit's top prospects. How realistic is it, and is it something that the organization should consider? We'll also recap an interview that Red Wings legend and Hockey Hall of Famer Pavel Datsyuk did with RG.org this week, where he gives his thoughts on the state of his former team. He then makes a pretty bold prediction for the upcoming season that you're definitely going to want to hear about, and I know Tony's going to be emphatic when he hears this. Earlier this week, Frank Cervelli from Bleacher Report had some interesting comments regarding one of the top unrestricted free agents from the 2026 class that may have interest in returning home to Michigan. Devin and Tony will predict what Red Wings will make their respective countries' roster as the Winter Olympics in Italy get underway next February. That's less than 6 months away. We're 6 months away from Olympic hockey, and man, I'm definitely excited. What's the time difference in Italy? Does everybody know? It's got to be 9 or 10 hours.
They are 6 hours ahead.
6 hours ahead. So if they play games at 7 o'clock, it'll be 1. That's great, dude. Happy hour. Happy hour. It's done. Sold. We're also going to today try a new segment called Random Red Wings, where I'm going to give clues about a former player that is suited up in the wing wheel, and Tony and Devin will try to see if they can guess who it is. I'll give them 3 clues to test their knowledge, and we'll see how good these two actually are. And we'll wrap up this episode by telling you the best thing we saw in hockey this week. But before we get into all that, I'd like to remind you where you can find us. Check us out on our YouTube channel at The Flying Octopod. Drop us a like or comment and let us know if there's anything you'd like us to address on future episodes. Follow our Twitter page at Flying Octopod, where you can also get clips from this podcast, as well as the latest news and notes from around the NHL. You can also listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And again, don't be shy. We appreciate any and all feedback. So let's get started. Devin, you mentioned the Olympics here in the cold open, and there's going to be a lot of Red Wings playing in Italy, representing their countries. We know Dylan Larkin's going to be a lock for the USA roster. What about DeBrincat, Kane? Are those guys going to have possible chances to be on this 2026 roster?
Well, I think that they're the chance for sure. I think, you mentioned the 2010 Olympics and how exciting that run was for Team USA, obviously falling a goal short against Team Canada. The thing with Team USA, even this past season with the Four Nations tournament, is that the USA, if they weren't a hockey powerhouse before, they very much are now. And I think the point that players like Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane and even John Gibson, there's a very good chance that they're left off the roster. I think that kind of speaks to just the wealth of talent that the Americans have to pull from. And I think it also kind of speaks to Dylan Larkin and his status as one of the top American players in the world, that we do kind of look at him as a lock, whereas the DeBrincats and Canes are kind of maybe under the right circumstances. I will say, if I'm like having to put numbers on it or rank them in terms of likelihood or whatever, Patrick Kane, I think, is probably the most likely option out of the rest of the Red Wings Americans. He's kind of that legacy player that obviously is very well respected for what he's accomplished as an American player in the NHL. And he would be kind of maybe the token like veteran leader in that locker room for an Olympic run. And for what it's worth too, it would be his last real opportunity to represent the red, white, and blue. So I could see that being a possibility, probably as an extra forward. Again, a lot of talent to pull from, but I could see that. Alex DeBrincat, there's definitely a chance. He's obviously a prolific goal scorer, but I don't think he necessarily has as much of a resume that like a Patrick Kane does. And then John Gibson, Team USA might have the best goalie trio in the entire tournament, and that is without including John Gibson. So outside of Dylan Larkin, there's a very good chance that it's only Larkin who is representing the Red Wings for Team USA. I think Patrick Kane definitely has a shot at it, and then the rest of it, maybe at best.
I think DeBrincat has a shot. And I guess the basis for my argument there is that the tournament's going to be played on an Olympic-sized rink, a wider rink. What you see, when watching SHL games and other European League games, just that wider rink that's a little over 10 feet wider compared to the NHL rink. And with that extra space, ideally you want faster players who can, get up and down the ice quickly, players who can capitalize on space. I think that those are all things DeBrincat can do and do well, as opposed to like a Jason Robertson or Brock Nelson or Brock Besser. Like, those guys are all great players, but in my opinion, DeBrincat is just a little faster, and obviously he's a power play threat, much like the rest of the roster, of course, but because of the way he plays, and he's shown he can play a two-way game as well. I don't know. I think there's a chance he makes the team. I wouldn't say it's a great chance, but based on the way he plays, it would certainly be a nice match for the type of hockey that's played in the Olympics. But that's the only other Red Wing I could see possibly making the USA team. For Kane, it would be a great story. I would just think it's unlikely, especially with probably most of the Four Nations team returning, and then just being adapted a little bit for the wider rink. Gibson, maybe, like Devin mentioned, as that veteran presence. You figure Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger are going to get the starts there. So do they bring in someone like Gibson as just a locker room guy and veteran mentor for, well, Hellebuck's a veteran now, so that doesn't really matter, but just a locker room guy? Or do they bring in someone who's younger like Swayman, who can just be there and be part of the future as well? So Yeah, Dylan Larkin just might be the only Red Wing on the United States squad in the Olympics this year.
Yeah, when you look at the projections for the forwards, there's Matt Boldy, Cole Caulfield, Kyle Connor, who we'll get to later, Jack Eichel, Jake Gensel, Jack Hughes, Clayton Keller, Dylan Larkin, Austin Matthews, JT Miller, Jason Robertson, the Tkachuk brothers, and Tage Thompson. Now, there's definitely going to be injuries somewhere in there at that point, which would probably give the Red Wings that we just talked about players a better chance to make the roster. But there's a lot remains to be seen there. But man, I'm excited for it. There's nothing like Olympic hockey in February, and this will be the first time they played since Sochi in 2014. And don't forget, Kane was on that 2010 USA Canada team. That was just electric. I think my favorite part about the Olympics was 2014 with TJ Oshie and the shootouts. I mean, that he was just a stud. That guy was money.
EJ Sochi.
Always a huge fan of him. In terms of Sweden, we know Lucas Raymond is a lock to make that team. Simon Edvinsson, he's on it, right, guys?
At least for my projections, he is. When it comes to Sweden's D-core, they do have quite a bit of aging players. Victor Hedman, Jonas Brodin, Erik Karlsson, Matthias Ekholm. All those guys, most of those guys likely won't be around for the 2030 team, which leaves Rasmus Dahlin, probably Rasmus Andersson, Gustav Forsling, and that's why you need Edvinsson. You need someone who will be part of the future to be on the team. And frankly, he played like a top pairing defenseman all year in the NHL last year. So the talent is there for him to make the team. And yeah, I could see him making Sweden's team over someone like Hampus Lindholm. Maybe Matthias Ekholm doesn't make the team. Rasmus Sandin, Adam Larsson. I'm not sure if these guys would be ahead of Edvinsson in any regard, but for my money, I think he's a top 8 defenseman from Sweden currently. Now, will that actually happen when the roster is put together, and how many games he'll play if he does make the team? I don't know. But if I was in charge of putting together the roster for Sweden, Edvinsson would be there for sure.
I like that take. I'm not necessarily sold on the idea. I think that Edvinsson's going to be one of those guys that first couple months of the season is going to be kind of his audition for the Olympics. You do make really good points. He already showed himself capable of playing at a top line level in the NHL, and he probably is very much at least in the conversation as a top 8 defenseman from Sweden right now. And if he's not, I imagine he'll be in that conversation firmly by the end of the season. To me, it's when I kind of think about what the roster would look like, I almost wonder if it's not going to come down to necessarily talent level. I wonder if it's just going to kind of come down to role. Because, yeah, you're right. The Swedes' defense is it's an aging group, very much so. But while you do have the Hedmans and the Carlsons and the whatnots of the present, they're going to play, and they're going to play pretty sizable roles too. And so does that just kind of automatically squeeze Edvinsson out? Is there a role for him? I'm not convinced quite yet, but I could see there being one in time. That's kind of where I go back to my point of him maybe auditioning over the next couple of months. But also, I also kind of think of, I'm pretty sure it was the 2010 Olympics where Canada brought a very, very young Drew Doughty as like their 7th defenseman. And he got some very crucial experience and was actually a part of that gold medal team for Team Canada. Maybe Edvinsson's Team Sweden's Doughty this year. Maybe he's kind of brought on as an extra defenseman, and then he earns time over the course of the tournament. I know I'd certainly be on board for that. And just to kind of put a period on this, I'm not downplay. I don't mean to downplay Edvinsson at all. I actually think that he's lined up to have a really exciting season if everything goes well for him. And I think that, assuming, again, to hark back, if he is auditioning the first couple of months, I think there's actually a really good chance that he auditions well and he does earn a spot. It's just a matter of what that spot looks like.
We are biased. This is a Red Wings podcast, but just look at the data from the 2024-25 season. Edvinsson was that guy. He was a top pairing defenseman for the Red Wings. And not just for the Red Wings. Let me just clarify that a top 64 defenseman in the league. If you look at his offensive numbers, his defensive numbers, the aggregate is top pair level defenseman. And he played a lot of minutes against elite competition and performed pretty well in that regard for the Red Wings. And Devin, you're bringing up Drew Doughty at the 2010 Olympics. I don't know why this jogged my memory because these are completely different players. But you guys remember at the 2014 Olympics when Jonathan Ericsson was part of the team? I forgot about that until just now. Like him and Cronwall were supposed to be like the shutdown pair. And then Cronwall got hurt after Zetterberg got hurt. And then you were just left with Ericsson. And it was like, what the hell happened here?
I thought we had a rule where Jonathan Ericsson's name cannot be brought up on this podcast. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm ready for the backlash, but I think Seider's going to make Team Germany.
Oof. Bold.
Hot take. Yeah, I mean, Seider's going to have a big tournament. He'll be playing in all situations for Team Germany. Their power play might actually be really strong with him up top and Draisaitl, Stützle, JJ Peterka, and, you know, TBD on that, who's in that fifth spot. But those four players, at the very least, that is a lethal looking power play. Like we've seen with the World Championships in recent years, Seider's been the guy for Germany. He has been their stalwart defenseman. He is going to play all the heavy minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if some games he gets 30 minutes of ice time. It's not a knock on the rest of Germany's defensemen, but if they're going to make some noise in this tournament, he needs to be playing a lot of minutes and playing against the top lines of the top teams.
All right, I'm going to set you guys up for a real potential hot take here. Moritz Seider's going to be on the team, right? But my question is Moritz Seider going to be the captain of Team Germany?
Yes.
Not Draisaitl?
If it's not Seider, it's got to be Draisaitl for sure. But
He'll at least be an A.
That is a hot take. I'm very curious now because he has been the captain for them at the World Championships. So
Draisaitl one defenseman.
Stanley Cup Finals, like I get it, but
I'll be honest, if it were up to me, none of the Red Wings would play in the Olympics. I just fear injuries. I always think back to John Tavares when he broke his leg at the Olympics. And it's just, I can see the Red Wings, because you know what March does to the Red Wings. And if you get two players hurt there and then we come back to March and it's, I'm not ready for that kind of letdown.
That's why I didn't buy tickets to a March game.
Shifting gears here, appearing on the Sekeres and Price show this week, Cam Robinson from Elite Prospects revealed that he's been told the Oilers have reached out to Detroit about potentially acquiring goaltender Trey Augustine to take their reins as the goaltender of the future. I've heard that they're looking a little more long-term and their field of vision is a little bit wider here, Robinson said. I've been told they've contacted Detroit. I believe the first person they asked about was Augustine, and I think it was just a non-starter. Steve Yzerman and company really love that kid, and they should. The Red Wings have invested a lot of time and development in Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine. Tony, what do you make of this rumor that Cam Robinson floated this week?
Yeah, I've also seen the Oilers having interest in Cossa too, which, I mean, it's understandable. They're looking for a goalie of the future. The Red Wings have two of them, so in theory, one might be available. Supply and demand, that's just how it works. I think eventually one will get traded. I just don't think there's any rush to do it. Kossa's going to be ready sooner rather than later. He'll start in the AHL most likely, but he'll be ready for NHL duties by the end of next season. Augustine, he's a little further off. You have to give him a season or two at least in the AHL after, turning pro, potentially after the season. But both goalies have the potential to be a 1A starter, which with a league that relies increasingly on tandems instead of one workhorse goalie, that's great. I mean, frankly, the Red Wings don't have to deal either of them. That said, and as we covered in last week's episode, when you look at their team of the future, there are still holes. Like they still need at least a couple more top six forwards who are currently, 19 to 23. And another left defenseman in that same age cohort as well, because those players will be squarely in their prime when the Red Wings are in their true contention status. Do the Oilers have players like that they might be willing to deal? I don't know. Like, they just acquired Isaac Howard. I don't think they'll be in any rush to trade him. Sure, they have other prospects in their system, but no guarantees, if you ask me. So I see the need on Edmonton's side, for sure. I don't see why the Red Wings would make a deal with the Oilers right now unless it was involving a third team. But then again, who knows? It's the summer. People start making up things, and I'm not saying Cam made anything up. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot that gets floated around during the summer, and we'll get to that more in a little bit with Kyle Connor. But as far as Cossa and Augustine go, like, we can throw out ideas for trades, till the cows come home. But I just don't see it as something that the Red Wings are going to do in the immediate future.
I think a lot of people may have read into that Yzerman press conference on April 29th, where he wasn't prepared to say that Cossa was going to play NHL games this year. His quote, and I'm trying to find it here, it says, today I'm not prepared to say he's going to play in the NHL next year. He's got to do more. I think people are reading a little too much into that. I think they've invested too much time and development into Sebastian Cossa to give him up. And again, the Oilers, I don't think they're looking to trade Isaac Howard after just acquiring him, like you just said, Tony. And I doubt Matthew Savoy is on the table. And even then, I don't think that's worth Sebastian Cossa. I think his ceiling is too high at this point. And I just think it's, like you said, Tony, it's the summer. We got to talk about something that's not going to happen in my mind.
Yeah. And I like that you bring up Savoy, because for me, you're both right. Isaac Howard's not going to be part of this. You don't trade somebody that you acquired last month. So for me, like, to even get a conversation going to even maybe consider trading one of their goalies of the future, it's like Savoy and a first, and I'm not even sure if that's something doable for either party, honestly. So it's like you said, Tony. I like how you put it. It's basic supply and demand. If you're the GM of the Edmonton Oilers, you have a very clear need at the goaltending position. It is then your job to go out and find teams, organizations that have an abundance of goalies at some level or another. The Red Wings have a ton of talent at the goaltending position within their organization. It's a pretty easy fit. It's natural that Edmonton would have contacted Detroit about potentially acquiring one of their prospects. It just now comes to the point of, like, A, does Detroit even want to entertain the idea? And B, what does a trade look like? Because Edmonton isn't exactly swimming in assets. And for my money too, the Red Wings have been very methodically building out their goaltending depth. I don't think that they're doing that so that way they can just quickly throw away Augustine or Cossa. I think that, like you both have said, they clearly invested a lot of time and assets into Cossa's development, Augustine's as well. And I do think that they, bare minimum, want to see both of them at the NHL level before deciding that they're going to move in a different direction. And that's, they might not even do that. For right now, there's just no reason to make a move. If you trade Cossa, you need a goalie back, because you got to have some confidence in the goalie tandem in Grand Rapids this season, and you're trading their top goalie if you trade Cossa. So what does that look like? And then you also want to make sure that your third goalie, which is Cossa, is somebody that can come up in the event that Cam Talbot and John Gibson endure some injuries, which we expect that they will. So this, to be honest, it's kind of funny that this is popping up, because this is basically the season that everyone's been waiting for. Cossa's like lined up to get legitimate NHL minutes this season, just because of who's in front of him and where he's at on the depth chart as well. So it's of course that now that he's kind of lined up to actually get NHL minutes, now the trade rumors are starting. I don't think the Red Wings have any interest in trading Cossa. I think that if they do trade him, it'll be a part of a big deal. And it'll be because Augustine's kind of stolen the throne, so to speak, and kind of given them no choice. And even then, like you've already mentioned, it's a tandem league now. So wouldn't it make sense to keep your Cossa, Augustine, Mark Swayman, right? Like when it makes sense to keep that for as long as you can, and then make a deal when you have to.
Yeah, I don't think Cam's just throwing stuff out there, but let's make sure that we state the fact that he said Edmonton reached out and asked. It didn't say anything about Detroit's interest in it. So, but I doubt we see either of them move, because at this time, the Red Wings don't even know what they have yet. All they know is they have is two really good prospects, and they're going to let them blossom. This team has struggled to find a number one goaltender for as long as we can remember. You know, John Gibson coming in here this year is great. We're getting John Gibson on the back nine, but I can't see a scenario where one of these two are moved unless it's for a superstar, and it's a little further down the road. Shifting gears now. That's my new favorite thing, saying shifting gears. I don't know why, because I have no I'm not like a handy craftsman or anything. Red Wings legend Pavel Datsyuk did an interview earlier this week with RG.org's Sergei Demidov, not related to Ivan, I'm told, where he made a pretty bold prediction for his former team. He said this of the Detroit Red Wings: the Red Wings were at the top for a long time, winning many titles, so it's understandable that the rebuild is taking more time than usual. They say a rebuild takes about 7 years, but since Detroit was up so high up, the road back to the top takes even longer. Now Detroit has a great arena, which is already a big plus, but perhaps what the team lacks is standout leaders. But that's true not only for Detroit, it applies to hockey in general. He also said in regards to the rebuild, they keep the core principles that made them champions, but are building the team according to modern hockey trends. You can't do it the old way anymore. The game has changed a lot: the rules, the business, and the style of play. As for his bold prediction, Tony, are you sitting down? Yes, you are. As for the bold prediction on the future of the Red Wings, Datsyuk had this to say: here's my prediction for 2026. Detroit will reach the conference final. Now, Tony, I know you love hearing that. Sounds like he's talking about this upcoming season. I think he might be a season off. But what was your reaction when you heard that, or was it like lost in translation there?
You know, if Datsyuk is predicting the Red Wings are going to make the conference final, I am all for it, because he knows way more about hockey, way more about the Red Wings, way more about that entire universe than all of us combined. So that's great news. I will be, looking at the betting lines accordingly. No, but that would be obviously awesome. I don't expect them to reach the conference finals. If they do, that's outstanding. They're ahead of the game. I did like what Datsyuk had to say about Dylan Larkin. Obviously, he made the comment about leadership and not a lot of players, maturing into leaders and kind of staying teenagers forever. Later on in the interview, he did mention that Larkin has come a long way since Datsyuk played with him in Detroit. And it's crazy to think that those guys were teammates. Like, that shows how long Larkin's been in the league. Yeah. But he did mention that Larkin is a great leader. He's a great player. He is everything the Red Wings need him to be, paraphrasing here. But he did make a point in saying that he is a great leader. And I know that's been something that's been called into question in the past. So it's coming from the Magic Man guys. Like, he's a great leader, But it's always great to hear from Datsyuk, because it's not like he's in the spotlight in the US or even in Russia for that matter. So when he does give an interview, you do pay attention.
Absolutely. And for what it's worth, if anyone knows what a good leader looks like, Pavel Datsyuk, because his captains in the NHL were Steve Yzerman, Nick Lidstrom, and Henrik Zetterberg. And I think all of those three passed the leadership test. So if he's putting his approval stamp on Dylan Larkin, then that's good enough for me. And for what it's worth, his prediction of the conference finals, that's basically what the Chicago Blackhawks in 2009, right? Like, their first real playoff run was immediately to the conference finals before losing to the Red Wings. I mean, hey, if that's the Red Wings this year, they kind of just announce themselves and immediately take off. It'll be a fun centennial season, if you ask me.
Patrick Kane was on that team too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously we all love the Magic Man, but Pasha, I don't know if it's going to be this year. I'll give you the 2-year window like Tony's, but I'm not going with the conference final this year. I'll be happy just with her playoff berth, and I think we all would be fine with that. Earlier this week, on Bleacher Report's Frank Saravelli was discussing the 2026 free agent class and mentioned left winger Kyle Connor as a possible fit for the Red Wings next summer. The 28-year-old Connor is a goal-scoring machine. Last season, 82 games, he put up 97 points with 41 goals and 56 assists, which was 7th overall in league scoring. He's a consistent 40-goal threat that's found the back of the net 284 times in 613 games played. Also, did I mention he's from the Mitten? The Shelby Township native has a history with Red Wings captain Dylan Larkin, played midget with him, and also played a season with him at the University of Michigan before being drafted 17th overall in the 2015 NHL draft. Devin, what would it mean for the rebuild if the Red Wings were able to acquire Kyle Connor's services next offseason?
Well, I just want to real quickly send my condolences because, the Jets picked Kyle Connor at 17th overall in that draft, and if only he would have made it 2 spots further, then the Red Wings might have been able to snag him instead of Evgeny Svechnikov. Shout out to you, but oh well. I think, to be quite honest with you, I think Kyle Connor is going to be a name that is circling around Red Wings land pretty much for the whole season unless the Jets extend him. All the fits are there for all the reasons you mentioned. Evan obviously has ties to the state and the community, and he's a top line left wing, which the Red Wings need right now. So if they still have that need heading into free agency next season and Kyle Connor's there, you better believe they're going to at least make an offer. And I have a feeling that Connor will at least hear the Red Wings out, unlike free agents in this year's crop. To be honest, at the end of the day, this is very much it's August. It's the August part of the off season. There's not much to talk about, so we're already talking about next year's free agents. Yeah, it does make sense for Kyle Connor to think about Detroit next season. It might happen. It also might not. We're just kind of speculating. We're finding things to talk about, and that's what we're doing on the show right now too, right? I guess what I'm saying here is that there's definitely there's something to this rumor. There's definitely the logic is there, but we're basically a full year out from this even being a possibility. So for right now, it's just kind of fun to talk about, but we're going to talk about it plenty, I imagine, between now and next July.
Yeah, I want to specify something. This was someone pontificating. This was a content creator saying, hey, I think this player makes sense for this team. There wasn't, I hear Kyle Connor's interested in going to Detroit. I hear the Red Wings are planning to make a big offer to Kyle Connor. It was, hey, I could see these guys being a match, which obviously, yes, for all the reasons Devin mentioned, of course, that is the lowest hanging fruit you can think of. So please just take that with a grain of salt. Let's revisit this June 30th of next year. We'll see if he's still available.
I also just feel in general, this player makes sense for the Red Wings is just getting a ton of mileage this offseason. And to say, I get it. Red Wings fans definitely drive engagement, but to some extent, it's you're ultimately saying nothing. But well, I get it. It's August.
It's just like when Aaron Ward told me that Suter and Parise were coming to Detroit, and they didn't. And I yelled at him on Twitter, and he still has me blocked. Yeah, great story. Connor will be 29 though next year, and looking for a long-term deal. He's obviously going to cost a lot of money, probably in the 12 million range a year. Tony, is that good for the Red Wings contention window and timeline if he signed to a 6 or 7 year deal?
I mean, yes and no. He's obviously an elite NHL player, so his aging curve might look a little different compared to an average NHL player. So Red Wings will be able to get a little bit more mileage out of him in his 29, 30, 31, 32 than, like I said, an average NHL player. But beyond that, yeah, the cost of the player versus the value, returned on the ice is going to be, there's going to be a little bit of a mismatch there. The salary cap continuing to go up will be a factor here as well. I would have no objections to a contract like that, but I'm also not putting a lot of stock into it right now because there's a lot of time for the Jets to re-sign him because Last I checked, Connor Hellebuck was supposed to be hitting the market and possibly going back to Michigan. Same, and Mark Scheifele was supposed to be hitting the market, and they didn't. So we'll see what happens. Oilers did get out, but we'll see what happens with Kyle Connor.
Moving along to news and notes from around the league, we here at the Flying Octopus Podcast would like to wish Johnny Gaudreau a happy heavenly birthday. The Star winger would have turned 32 today. Still a tragic accident. He's still sorely missed in the hockey community. Johnny Hockey will be in our hearts and never be forgotten. And it's to this day when I think about, it's one of those moments where I remember where I was when I heard it and just hoping that it was just some bad rumor on the internet. And, you know, that young family was just torn apart, and I'm still devastated about it. And, you know, happy birthday up there, Johnny Hockey. In other news, Tom Dundon, the owner of the NHL's Carolina Hurricanes, has agreed to buy the Portland Trailblazers from the estate of Paul Allen for a valuation of just more than $4 billion. Dundon intends to keep that team in Portland. Guys, why couldn't we have gone in on that?
I think we'd be about 4 billion short, but
I know. We need a Patron count. There's just no way we're going to be able.
Pretty sure Chauncey Billups is the coach over in Portland, so I feel like if we would have done it, we would have had to have had some weird clause where he goes back to the Pistons in some role. So maybe that's why.
The conflict of interest at that point. So
yeah. Yep.
It's weird for an owner in Carolina to own a team in Carolina and another team in Portland on two opposite sides. Like, how do you figure that out? I mean, hockey and basketball happen at the same time. Like, I don't know. That's an interesting buy for me.
And their logos are like semi-similar too. I think he just likes red and black together.
Yeah, that was all over social media today, and it was with the meme from The Office where it said, "Well, those are the same pictures." Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
All right, we're getting ready to wrap today, but we're going to try something new here on the Flying Octopus Podcast, and we're going to do. It's going to make this a weekly segment. It's called Random Red Wing of the Day. And I'm going to give you guys, I'm going first. I'm picking the Random Red Wing today. You guys are my contestants. I guess I'll call you that. But I'm going to give you guys 3 clues about a player who once played for Detroit. A player you may have forgotten about, but that will make you say, oh yeah, I remember that guy now. Only going back to 1995, that was per Tony because he can't remember anything before that. And like I said, we'll do this on a weekly basis moving forward. So for today, here are your hints. And Devin,
is it Brent Gilchrist?
No, but he made my list. He made my list, Tony. He did make my list today. So I was at the doctor's office today with my daughter. She had a respiratory infection, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, God, I got to come up with this random Red Wing of the day. And so I punch in on Google random Red Wings of the day, and there was a list of 30. It was like, I think it was on Reddit, and I didn't find my answer there. I found it something I saw on Twitter, but Brent Gilchrist did make the top 5 of what I thought I was going to go with. So Tony, that's +1 for you. Okay, so here are your hints for our first random Red Wing of the day. He played 28 games for the team in 2017-18. Those were the only games he ever played for Detroit. He, like Kyle Connor, is from the state of Michigan. Devin, the last clue, he played college hockey at Michigan State. Now, if you guys are really struggling, I'll give you the super bonus hint, but I don't want to do that.
Really try to black out those years.
Try to black out those years, 2017-18?
Yeah, when we thought Thomas Tatar and Gustav Nyquist were the future.
I used to love watching Nyquist. You remember that one shift where he just circled around for like an hour? And
yeah.
I had my Nyquist jersey. Any clues, or do you want to use your lifeline here with the super bonus hint?
So he played 28 games with the Red Wings in 2017-18.
Yep. It's from the state of Michigan. Played at Michigan State. Devin, why are you looking online right now? I can see you doing it.
It's the glasses, man. It gives you away.
I'm looking at the next year's team to see if that jogs anything.
No, it won't. I'll give you the super bonus hint now, guys. Super bonus hint. He once scored 31 goals for the Panthers during the 2008-2009 season.
Okay.
Really? That's what did it for you guys?
I know who this is.
Honestly.
Yep.
Okay, who is it?
David Booth.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys got it.
He's been killing it in the Australian League.
40 years old, David Booth now has 25 goals and 50 points in 11 games for the Melbourne Ice of the AIHL. I can imagine that stands for Australia International Hockey League. So go David Booth. You know, guys, it's kind of a crazy world right now. Just so much hate and negativity. I'd like to start ending these shows on something positive, a positive vibe that you know gets us going into the weekend. So I ask both of you, what's one thing you saw in hockey this week, whether it's a social media or something you read somewhere, just something that made you feel good about the game that you love to follow and cover?
I wasn't sure what to bring up, but then Gerard Gallant had a crazy hype video with the Shanghai KHL team where he's the head coach now. So that was pretty cool to see. Go check that out when you get a chance. Because
I'll play it. I'll put it on here while you're talking about it. It's great.
I already had high expectations when I saw people, commenting on it, and then it surpassed it when I actually watched it.
But he threw that little hat over while he was on the bench, and it's like, wow.
If you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you have to watch that.
Mortal Kombat. How many quarters did I waste at the bowling alley on that video game? Devin, what did you see this week? Give me something.
Feel a little lame with mine, but I think it's kind of cool when lesser known Red Wings get highlighted for one reason or another. The EA Sports dropped their gameplay deep dive on NHL 26 today, just kind of getting into how it plays differently than games in the past. And their big thing this year is that it's powered by NHL Edge, which is, of course, basically all the tracking technology that the NHL has implemented over recent years, where they got chips in the pucks, they got chips in jerseys, they got infrared cameras in all the arenas, all these little data points that they're collecting that tell us, David goes this fast and this player can shoot the puck this hard and yada, yada, yada. Obviously Dylan Larkin was very briefly highlighted in their little video they launched today for his speed. But what I thought was really interesting was that Albert Johansson, of all people, was featured as they were kind of highlighting how hard players shoot the puck. I'm pretty sure it was Quinn Hughes also on the screen with him. Johansson was basically on the screen as he doesn't shoot the puck as hard, so he can only shoot the puck 90 miles an hour, which is like maybe like a backhanded compliment type of thing. But like, hey, people were probably exposed to the name Albert Johansson. There were plenty of people who were probably exposed to the name Albert Johansson for the first time from that video. And I think that's kind of cool because it's pretty easy to highlight the Dylan Larkins and the Lucas Raymonds of the world. But to get a guy like Albert Johansson on the screen as a representative from Detroit, I thought that was kind of cool.
He was that meme of that kid being like,
yeah, pretty much. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Devin, if that was lame, well, then mine's going to be super lame because I, too, am going down the EA wormhole with you. And for those of you who know, I have a really bad addiction with this game. I've started playing it when it first came out in the early 90s. I still have those cartridges, by the way, if you ever want to see them. But I stopped playing. I played it up through high school, and then once I got to college, it was kind of out of video games. So flash forward to 2020 during the pandemic, and I'm at home working, and I got nothing to do. So what do? I buy the new NHL 20 or NHL 21 at the time. Man, I played that game way too much. But this week, I decided, you know what? I'm not buying 26. I'm not getting 26 this year. I spend too much time on it. I got other things to do. I got a podcast. I got a job. It's not going to do it. Well, EA puts out that they're bringing Sergei Fedorov back to the game for the first time since the 2007-2008 season. And that's when I decided I was going to buy it. That's when I did it because I guess I have to have that. So thanks, EA, once again, hook, line, and sinker. You've taken advantage of my addiction. Thanks. Good stuff today, boys. By the way, you haven't seen Naked Gun yet, have you?
Not yet.
You guys had one assignment this week. One assignment. We're taking notes next week. I'll give you guys one week for it. One more week, and next week I want reviews from both of you. And I want to
speak exclusively in quotes from it.
You were right. That's one of the top movies I've seen in a long time. Thanks for watching episode 48 of the Flying Octopus Podcast. And guys, next week we got a big name coming on, and we teased it a couple weeks ago, but former NHL goaltender and Farmington Hills native, also the grandson of Red Wings legend Sid Abel, Brent Johnson, will be joining us. And our goalie guru, Tony, will be grilling him left and right. But a lot of amazing stories coming up with Brent. Talk about some Red Wings history, talk about some current events in the NHL, and actually pick his brain a little bit about having a front row seat for Ovechkin's goal chase, which I'm really excited to ask about. And so with that, I bid you adieu. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Stay classy.
Thanks for listening to the Flying Octopus Podcast. Follow us on YouTube at the Flying Octopus channel and Twitter at Flying Octopod.